To start things off, we're going to give a special shout out to our 5-6 students here from Cumberland North Academy. Also to the members of the GSA conference, which is happening here today. Happy to have you all with us. And the Youth Project folks, thank you for joining us as well. Other special guests in attendance are Trudy Thompson, Board Chair of CCRSB, Glenda Talbot Richards, Board Member, Gary Adams, Superintendent of Schools, CCRSB, Stephanie Eisner-Ryan, Director, Programs and Student Services. Chris Bolter, System Development Supervisor. Carla Mitchell-Smith, Chignecto Family of Schools Supervisor. Jude Gerard, our special guest speaker. And of course, ORE students and staff. So today here at OREC, for this year's kickoff to the What's in Your Backpack campaign, we will be talking about Stand Up, Speak Out Against Bullying and the Pillars of Social Justice. To start off our day, I'd like to invite Ms. Trudy Thompson to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Stand Up, Speak Out 2016 official kickoff. As Kelsey said, my name is Trudy Thompson, and I'm chair of the Chignecto-Central Regional School Board. It is my job as chair of CCRSB to come to events like this. That's really exciting, because it means I get to spend time with you all and learn more about who you are and how your school is doing. I would like to welcome and thank my fellow board member, Glenda Talbot Richards, for attending this morning with me. There are over 600 people here at Oxford Regional this morning, and hundreds more watching this kickoff event via live stream. And we've all come together for the 4th year to keep a really important conversation going. We're here to talk about social justice and to stand up and speak out for what is right. That means we do not accept racism, sexism, or intolerance of any kind. That means we will not tolerate bullying in any form at our schools, at our offices, or around our board table. This year, we need to move beyond talking about social justice to really taking action. We need to put understanding and acceptance into action. We all need to believe in ourselves and everyone around us. We need to value the fact that we're all different, and yet we're all the same. I hope you enjoy this morning's event and that you use today as your own personal kickoff to a year-long conversation and action in support of all things that make us each unique. Today, my backpack is full of joy. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Thompson. Sorry. Today I'm going to talk about social justice. So no matter if you're rich, poor, black, white, gay, or straight, you should be offered the same education, the same safe school, and also a welcoming school. Today and every day is about being equal, and everyone has a level playing field. What? Mr. Adams. I'd like to call up Mr. Gary Adams, the CCRSB superintendent.
Thank you very much, Raylene. Good morning, everybody. Are you excited to be here? I've been looking forward to this for a long time now, and I'm also very excited to be here with almost 600 of you in this special event this morning. What's amazing is that around our region today, almost 23,000 of our students, staff, and guests are having very important and very similar conversations to what we're going to have here for the next hour. It's just amazing. And of course, we're focused on social justice, which is not an easy concept. It means a lot of different things to many people. Important things like equity, fairness, understanding, and respect. So at CCRSB, we have a social justice framework. That helps us to frame those conversations and think about what it means for each of us. And as Trudy said, taking on social justice is not just about standing up and speaking out against bullying. It's about much more than that. It makes us think about respect, understanding, kindness, and how we appreciate the differences that bind all of us together. So last year, we had a conversation about our backpack. That's a great metaphor, which means the backpack which is about us is really invisible. But it holds some very important things that makes us who we are. Some of the things that are in our backpacks every day weigh heavily on us, and they're not easy. They can make us sad, angry, or confused. But others make us happy. They make us proud and give us great joy in what we are about and what we contribute to the world every day. So, as was mentioned earlier, when you walked in the gym this morning, you received one of these. I want you to pull those out now, and we're just going to do a quick activity. So if you look at the back of yours, and it says gender, could you hold that high above your head, please? And look around you. So what about class? Who has class on theirs? Wow. Sexual orientation. Hold them up high. Abilities. And finally, race. Great. So those are the 5 pillars of the social justice framework that we use to have these conversations in CCRSB. 4 years ago, there were some very important conversations that started here at Oric. And that was the beginnings of Stand Up, Speak Out. And at that time, you were talking about bullying. It was a focus on healthy relationships and how bullying needs to be part of that understanding. This past spring, we came back to Oric, and we had some excellent conversations with students in a student forum and other conversations later that helped us talk about social justice again. And many students told us what's in their backpack. So I'm going to step aside now. I believe we have a video we're going to play, and we're going to hear what you had to say.
I believe that social justice is taking people who are disadvantaged and bringing them up to the same level as other people. So for example, giving people maybe financial help or counseling to those who have mental disabilities or mental health issues. It could be groups that would help people from conflicting beliefs learn about each other and sort of like learn about each other and understand and learn to respect each other. Basically making it so everybody is on the same level, has the same chances to succeed.
I think social justice is equalities and on how everybody should be treated equal. Say I may be good at sports and somebody else may be good at being an artist. We should both think of each other as equal, and regardless of our physical ability or what we can do, we should all be treated the same.
Social justice means to me not equality, but equity by helping. Like, it's like a social ladder almost, and it's bringing the people who are down here that might be more disadvantaged by trying to help them with financial status or giving them programs that can help them learn more about themselves by trying to bring them up to where everyone else is who is advantaged.
Social justice is kind of like bringing people to a point where we can all be equal, using equity to make people on the same level, to be able to be happy and healthy in their own rights, be able to respect each other and make sure that those who need help get it.
Social justice means everybody being at the same kind of treated the same way. Like, say I'm good at baseball but not basketball, and I have a friend that's good at basketball but not baseball. Then maybe we can help each other to be better at both of the sports that we're worse at, and just help everybody be kind of treated equally. Like, we're all different, and we all have our differences and our similarities, and we just need to put that away from us and just treat each other equally.
I have athletic abilities. I'm very friendly. I try to be nice to everyone. I'm very academically inclined, I guess. I participate in sports. I think that the backpack analogy is a wonderful thing. It makes people consider the things that are unseen or are less seen that may be hurting people. But I think people don't realize that sometimes those things go even deeper.
In my backpack, I seem to be good at playing sports, but in other people's backpacks, they may be carrying around maybe their gender, their race, their religion, and other things as well.
I think I'd find a lot of different things. Everybody has different baggage that they carry around with them, different experiences, different things that weigh them down, different things that lift them up. But I think some things that would be there would be the religions, the sexualities, how people in their communities respond to that, how different people have supporting families and non-supporting families, how somebody's financial situation might affect them on a daily basis.
In my backpack, I have lots of athletic skills. Like, I can play a sport if I really want to, and I can do good at it if I want to, but I believe that everyone can do good at something if they want to, and that all you have to do is try harder if you're not good at it, and you can become good at it.
Wasn't that awesome? Let's have a great big hand for the students in that. So our conversations about social justice are much larger than just a conversation about bullying. And we're very excited about how the Stand Up, Speak Out conversation is evolving. We have a great guest speaker here today, Jude Gerard, a good friend and supporter of the work and conversations we're having in CCRSB. And so I'm looking forward to him sharing ideas about this very soon. But before we get to Jude, I also have a great presentation that I get to make this morning, because we have available to our schools student action grants that give funding for programs and activities that help promote ideas around social justice in each of our schools. So this morning, I'm going to call upon Wesley Black and Taylor Richards, two students who I'd like to make this presentation to. And so Wesley and Taylor are going to accept this great big giant check from CCRSB for $500 that will go towards the formation of a group that will promote school spirit from grades primary to 12. Thanks very much, Wesley and Taylor. So before I go, I want to ask you a question. What's in your backpack? What do your friends, your classmates, and your teachers have in their backpacks? If you remember in the early days of this school year, you received a postcard that invited you to send us pictures, videos, poems, artwork, selfies, any way that you can express what's in your backpack. Because it's very important that we have these conversations together. The more we share what's important to us and what makes us who we are, the more we're able to understand and appreciate and celebrate everybody and respect them for who they are, and understand how we can live together in a very positive way. The better we understand one another and not make decisions and judgments about each other, the more we can eliminate bullying and other challenges. So I want to thank you for being so attentive this morning and the great work that you're doing here at Oxford Regional Education Center. Thanks to Mrs. Buchanan Baker, Mr. Sterrett, and all of the staff of ORIC for making it possible for us to do this today. There was a lot of work that went into making this possible. And also to thank you for the great work you do with these students each and every day. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. That was great. Next, we welcome Jude Gerard. Jude was born in Sheet Harbor and grew up between his First Nation community and Cole Harbor. He received a Bachelor of Commerce from St. Mary's University, where he majored in Finance and Human Resources, a Bachelor of Education from Acadia University, and is currently working on a Master's of Education with focus on inclusive education. Jude is a former member of the RCMP and has worked for the Veterans Affairs and in various prisons across Canada with Correctional Services of Canada. For 8 years, he was the Mi'kmaq Services Specialist with the Annapolis Valley Regional School Board, and for the past year, he has worked with the Student Services as the Student Services Consultant for the Mi'kmaq Services Division and Department of Education and Early Childhood Education. Jude has presented at conferences in Canada and the United States on systematic and institutional racism in schools, and Jude is currently delivering professional development to school boards across the province in cultural proficiency and courageous conversations about race. He currently lives in Aylesford with his wife Mary and is about to send his last of 3 children off to university in the fall. Welcome, Jude.
that one off so we don't get any feed. All right. I just want to make a couple little corrections. I sent that a while ago. I have since moved. I'm no longer living, I'm getting a lot of feedback here, aren't I? There we go. I'm no longer living in Aylesford. I used to live up by the zoo. It was pretty cool because when I woke up in the morning, I could actually hear the lions roaring. Nowhere else in Nova Scotia can you hear that. I don't live there anymore. Now I live in Middle Sackville. Now I can hear the people roaring. It's nice to be closer to the city again. And my last child I sent off to university a while ago, and then she came back. We tried really, really hard. She moved over to Prince Edward Island, to UPEI, where she was doing an undergrad in diversity and social justice. I never knew one existed. I wish it did when I was going to high school, because I would not have taken finance. I would have been doing that. She did it for a year, and then she moved back to Nova Scotia, moved in with us for 6 or 7 months again. But now she's back on her own, taking deaf studies. She's learning ASL, and she wants to be an interpreter so that she can work in our schools. So I just want to give you a little bit of update on that. Before we get going, I just need you to do me one quick favor. I think I'm going to be getting a lot of feedback here. I'm going to try to move this down just a little bit. Just a second. Is that, can you hear me with that there, or should I put it back up? Back up? Okay. All right. You're just going to have to hear me breathing, too. I'm really big on social media. So, not really big. I've got like 100 followers. That's not what I mean. But I'm really big with social media. So I want to get a little picture and a quick little video. So when I yell at you, I'll be really nice when I do it. What I want you to do is I want you to hold your paper up, and I want everybody to shout what's in their backpack. Now, wait for me to do this, though. Now, I hope I don't get feedback when I do this. I'm going to try really hard. No feedback? No feedback. Everybody out there, I want you to do the exact same thing, so I want everybody at this school to be able to hear you all across the board. And I did it without feedback. Awesome. Okay, so just let me get my camera ready. Yeah, okay. So when I count to 3, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, what's in your backpack? I want everybody to hold that up, and I want you to yell what's in your backpack. All right, just a second now, because I got to be in the picture too. 1, 2, 3, what's in your backpack? Thank you. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. Okay, here we go. Let's get at this. I've been talking long enough. My background has already been put out there. I am a big supporter of social justice, and the reason for that is there's something going on in our society, and I'm going to tell you a little story that took place a few years ago. True story. I want you to listen closely to this, because this story has absolutely nothing to do with racism. This story has absolutely nothing to do with sexism. It has nothing to do with sexual orientation. It has nothing to do with gender. It has nothing to do with homophobia. It has nothing to do with ableism. It has nothing to do with any of that, but it has to do with everything at the same time. Okay, so let's try this and see if it works. This is a story that I learned. I am Mi'kmaq. Rocking the mocks today. We learn from everything, okay? There are lessons to be learned from everything. You just have to look closely for those lessons. And this is a lesson that I actually learned over a pot of seafood chowder. So we're going to go through this story. I hope you enjoy it. If you don't, just pretend you enjoyed it and applaud for me after, okay? A few years ago, it was back in 2013. We were sitting around the house, and we were thinking, you know, we need to do something. I have been going to school forever and ever and ever. We moved all across the country a couple times, and as a family, we never took a big vacation. So we decided, you know what, we need to take a big vacation. So we're sitting around the house. This is us up here, okay? This is a really good-looking family. I can't go up and touch the pictures, but I'll sort of give you the idea. So that sexy guy in the bottom, that's me, all right? Laying down, posing. I think I had just gotten out of the bathtub, had my Lush bubble bath. I was feeling great. We were sitting around at Christmas time. So that's me on the bottom. Over on the left-hand side, that's my daughter, Kaylin. She's the one who's taking deaf studies. Right here, she's attempting sign language. This was before she learned it. She does know it now. So that's Kaylin. Over on the far side, and I should say that she's living in Dartmouth right now. Her and her boyfriend are both going to NSCC. Over on the far right, that's my daughter, Thomasina. She has gone to a lot of schools. She really loves education. She's still trying to figure out what she's going to do, but she'll figure that out pretty soon because she just packed up and moved to Toronto. Her and her girlfriend decided they were going to go up and live in Toronto for a little bit, just to see how it goes. Them and 5 cats. They drove to Toronto with 5 cats in the back of the car. I'm so glad I didn't go, and I won't be visiting much because I'm allergic to cats. I think 1 is too many. So they're living up in Toronto right now. Over to the left-hand side is Coda. I need to explain this picture, okay? That's my son, Dakota. Let me rephrase that. That's my daughter, Dakota. Back in December, Coda started transitioning. She had a pretty hard life, not fitting in with who she was. So back in December, she started transitioning from male to female. So these are my 3 daughters, and that's my wife, Mary, in the middle. I heard that the Youth Project's here today. Are you here? Where are you at? Stand up. Before I go any further, please give the Youth Project a round of applause. I just want to thank you personally for the awesome work you're doing in our schools all across the province. Without you, there would be many more kids like my daughter, Coda, struggling through school. There'd be many more kids like my daughter, Thomasina, struggling through school. So for that, I just want to say a personal thank you. So we're sitting here. We're sitting at our house up in Aylesford, and we're thinking, you know what? We need to go on a family vacation. We haven't taken one in a long time. Actually, we had never taken one. So we thought, you know, it would be great if the 5 of us went on a vacation. But then something happened. We started thinking, you know what would be even better? If 14 family members went on a family vacation for a month to Italy. Okay, if you learn anything from this talk, at no point in time is it a good idea to go on a month-long vacation with 14 family members, all right? It's not fun. It's a pain. Everybody wants to go their separate ways. We figured we all go over there and all 14 of us would stay in this one house. No, it's no good. Not a good idea. We thought we'd call it a family reunion. Now, it was just 14 people living in a big old stinky house. So please, please don't ever think that that's a great idea. So here's the 14 folks that came with us. We all packed. That's not my mustache down the bottom. That is me, but that's not my mustache. I had this beautiful dog. Her name was Misty. She was a German Shepherd Collie, and she used to run around under my feet all the time. And one day I accidentally just stepped on a little bit of the hair on her tail, and some of it came off, so I put it on and made a mustache with it. So it's not my real mustache. So we all packed up and we decided we're going to go to Italy for a month. So we all flew over to Italy. So here's Italy, shaped like a boot. Everybody knows it, recognizes it from the maps. It's the soccer capital of Europe, and rightfully so. It looks like a boot kicking a ball with Sicily down the bottom. But when we first got there, we went to Rome. This is the Colosseum. This isn't the real Colosseum. It doesn't look like that. This is just a drawing, okay, for those of you who might have never seen it. But we're there, and a lot of people said, no, you did not go there with 14 people. Yeah, yes, we did. I'll show you right up here. This is the 5 of us. We're at the Trevi Fountain, getting a picture taken. I don't know who the guy is on the far right side, photobombed us, but he just wanted to be in our family portraits, I guess. So we're at the Trevi Fountain. This is just us, but it doesn't prove that everybody was there. Here's some more of the folks. So we're in Rome. Rome is a beautiful city, okay? If you ever get a chance to travel, everybody should see Rome. It's a beautiful city, but it's a dirty city. And I don't mean like dirt and Tim Hortons cups and that sort of stuff floating around. I mean actual dirt. The roads were built a long time ago, and they're built with cobblestone. So it's little tiny stones that are all pasted together. It looks really nice, and it works well if you're riding a horse in a chariot. Doesn't work really well for cars that have brakes like today. The dust gets all down in the cracks, and as you're walking, it all kicks up on your feet. So when I say it's a dirty city, that's what I mean. It's all from the brake dust. So we're in Rome. We stayed there for a couple days. We did all the touristy things. Like I said, we went to the Colosseum. We ate a lot. The food was so good. But then we drove over to where we were going to be staying, in a small town right on the Adriatic. And I thought, when we were going, 14 of us, we're going to have this villa, all right? So I thought we were going to be staying in this beautiful villa, but this is what we ended up staying in. 14 people. It was tight. So, this is what I thought we'd be staying in. Wasn't like that at all. But that's okay. So this is the place we stayed in. We spent a lot of time down at the beach. I'm a swimmer. I love the beach. So here's a picture of the beach, all right? It's beautiful. The water was so warm. It was like a bathtub. Now, I've got a little bit of a problem, though, because when I get in the water, I'm just like a Newfoundland dog. I start swimming, and I just keep going and going and going. And that's exactly what happened to me one day. I was out swimming, and I just kept going. And it was so peaceful and so quiet. I'm swimming, and I'm looking up, and I'm seeing fish jumping in front of me. I thought I was in a Disney cartoon. It was so neat. I was waiting for mermaids and all them to show up. So I keep swimming, and then all of a sudden I stop just to rest, and I turn around. You see all them beautiful buildings and the trees and the hills? I couldn't see any of them. I had just kept going and going. I couldn't see land anymore. I had been swimming for a couple hours. So I started to panic a little bit, and I let some of my orienteering skills kicked in, and I started looking to which way the waves were going, hoping that would take me back to land. If I guessed wrong, I'd end up over in Croatia. So I started swimming with the waves, and eventually the buildings started to appear again. So I started getting back closer and closer, and I made it to shore finally. This was after swimming for about 4 hours. I was exhausted, and I was hungry, so I decided it was time for some beach food. Now, the beach food here in Canada, and specifically Nova Scotia, is a little bit different than the beach food over in Italy. Here, when you go to the beach, what do you normally eat? Just yell it out. All right, so what I heard was, you might get some hot dogs, you might get some French fries that taste like sand, hot dogs that taste like sand, potato chips that taste like sand, what else? Sandwiches that you bring from home that end up tasting like sand. That's sort of what we eat at the beach here. Over in Italy, the beach food actually comes from the beach, and it doesn't taste like sand. If you look closely in this here, you can see some of the tentacles. That's octopus. This was a seafood chowder. Or not a seafood chowder, this was a seafood salad, and it was so good. So what happens is the fish, the folks that catch the fish in the restaurants, early in the morning, they go way out on the beach in their boats, and they catch all this fish, and they bring it back in, and they cook that for the day, and that's what you eat at the beach. The tomatoes, they didn't catch those in the water, they grew on a farm. So this is the food we were eating, and it was so good. But it was time to go back to the house for the night. So we went back to the house, and I walked in, and I smelled something really good, right? It's not the smell that you usually smell when you're living with 14 people in a house. This smelled delicious. My nephew is a chef, and he was over there with us, and he decided he wanted to experiment a little bit, so he went down to the market. He got all kinds of different fish from Italy, and I walked in the house, and there he was. Oh, that's not the right picture. Just a minute. There it is. On the left-hand burner of our stove, he was making this beautiful seafood chowder, and it smelled good. So he asked me, he said, "Hey, Jude, you want some of the seafood chowder?" No, you know what? I just ate a big salad down at the beach. I'm really tired. I think I'm just going to go upstairs and lay down. I'm going to read my book for a little bit, and then I'm going to go to bed. But I'll tell you what, that does smell really good. What I would like you to do, if you can, is save me a little bit of it. Put it in a Tupperware jar, put it in the fridge, and tomorrow when I get up, I'm going on a trip for the day, but I'll take it with me and I'll eat that. So he said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And he continued doing what he was doing, and I went upstairs and I was reading my book. So I read my book for probably about half an hour, and I was getting really tired because I had been swimming for a while. So I decided it was time to go to sleep. I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning. It was about probably about 6 o'clock in the morning I woke up, and I decided, you know what, I've got a little bit of time. We're going on a trip for the day. I'm going to go down to the cafe. I'm going to get a nice coffee. I'll get some croissants. I'll get some snacks, and I'm going to have a beautiful Italian breakfast. So I woke up the next morning. I went downstairs, and there sitting on the left-hand burner of the stove was that seafood chowder that my nephew had cooked the night before. Now, I was mad for a couple reasons. Okay? One, I was mad because he didn't save me any of it like I had asked him. And two, he didn't bother cleaning up his mess. He just left it there on the left-hand burner of our stove for somebody else to clean up. So I figured, you know what, I got a little bit of time. I'm a nice person generally, so I'm just going to clean this for him. So I go over to the sink, and I got the water running. I reach underneath the sink, I grab the soap, and I put the soap up there. I go over and I get the pot, and I grab it off the stove. So I got the pot here, and I got the water here, and I got the soap here. And just as I'm about to put that pot under the stove, I said, no, wait, just a minute. I didn't make this mess. I don't have to clean this up. Now I'm feeling right self-righteous because I talked myself out of doing the hard work. I took that pot and I put it right back on the left-hand burner of the stove, and I left and got me some breakfast. Came back, I picked up my family, and we went for a drive. It was a long drive. We drove down to Pompeii. Pompeii is a cool place. It is even cooler than Rome. I loved it. This is my daughter, Thomasina. We're almost up to the top of Mount Vesuvius. For those of you who don't know, Mount Vesuvius is this volcano, and it exploded. And in the background, you can see where the cities are. Those cities were completely destroyed. This was a long time ago, okay? And the city was destroyed. Half of the mountain was missing. But we made it to the top of the mountain. It's actually kind of cool because they got these great big trucks that they've converted to buses, and you get on, and it takes you about halfway up the mountain. But once you get halfway, you got to walk the rest of the way. I never thought I was a mountain climber, but I did it. We all made it to the top of Mount Vesuvius, and we're sitting there, and we're looking down inside the volcano. You can still see some of the smoke coming out of it. It was really cool. And then I noticed that there was a couple little cafes up there. So we sat down, and we're eating some sandwiches, we're drinking some pop, some juice, some waters, and we're sitting there. And then I started thinking, wait a minute, there's cafes up here. How did they get this stuff up here? That's a long hike. It just took us over an hour to walk up here. And all of a sudden, a little smart car comes up the other side of the mountain. There was a road on the back side. Nobody told us. We could have drove right up to the top of the mountain. So anyway, we're up there. We're enjoying the site. We're looking at Pompeii. We went down to visit for the day. We saw the area that was completely destroyed by the volcano. It was just amazing. So we spent a full day there, and it was time to go back up to where we were staying. So we load everybody up in our little minivan that we had, and we're driving, and we got lost. And then we started driving some more, and we got lost some more. I'm driving this minivan, and the roads in Italy are very narrow. There were some areas where I actually had to pull the mirrors in so that we could fit through the roads. But we finally made it back home. And when we got there, I walked into the house, and my sister-in-law was in the kitchen cooking supper for us on the right-hand burner of the stove. Well, on the left-hand burner of the stove was last night's supper, now 24 hours old, and it was not looking good. I looked at her and I said, oh, come on now, tell me, how is it you can cook supper for all of us on the right-hand burner of the stove when I know you can smell last night's supper sitting right under your left-hand nostril? And she looked at me without missing a beat, and she said, well, I didn't have any of that supper last night. Did you have any of that supper? No, I didn't have any of that supper. Good, enough with that. You want some spaghetti and meatballs? Yes, I would love some. So I sat there and I ate my spaghetti and meatballs. I went over and I washed my dish and I put it in the dishwasher, and I went to bed. We had both talked ourselves out of doing any of that work that had happened the night before. So I went up to bed. I read my book for a few minutes, and I fell asleep. Next morning, 5 a.m. I was wide awake. Now, I don't have to tell you this, I'm sure you can guess it, but if you're living in a house where a pot of seafood chowder has been sitting on the left-hand burner of your stove for 36 hours, you're not going to need an alarm to wake you up. Because what's going to happen is that smell is going to crawl out of the pot of seafood chowder on the legs that it has grown overnight, It is going to crawl down onto the floor of your kitchen. It is going to go through the back of the kitchen, underneath the door, through the hallway, up the stairs, down the hallway, underneath that little crack on the bottom of your door, and it is going to find, with the precision of a laser, that thing on your face you call a nose. And you will be awake. And I was awake, and I was angry. I knew what was waiting for me on the left-hand side of that burner of my stove. Angry. I burst open the door. I'm running down the hall. I'm angry. I live with 14 people, and I can't find any of them, let alone my nephew who made the mess. It's almost like it was some sort of science experiment. He made it just to see how long it would sit before somebody would clean it up. So I run down the stairs. I'm angry. I burst into the kitchen. I throw open the door. This happened in 2013. 3 years later, I'm here to tell you, I looked across that kitchen and I saw that seafood chowder, and I swear it was looking back at me. All right? It was that point where I learned life's most valuable lesson. All right? I had learned a lot of stuff up until this point. I consider myself a pretty smart guy. But at this point, I learned that it didn't matter anymore, did it? It didn't matter that I wasn't the one that made that mess. It didn't matter that I didn't have any of it. It didn't matter that I didn't benefit from it, that I didn't even give permission to make that mess. All that mattered was I was tired of living in that funk. And that's exactly what society is like. When we get tired of living in that funk, we got to get busy cleaning it up. Not because we did it, not because we're responsible for it, but because we're here. And we're the only ones in a position to clean that mess up, all right? Now, this mess that I'm talking about has nothing to do with seafood chowder. It has to do with everything that is sitting on your cards in front of you. Take a look at your card for a minute. That funk that I'm talking about is racism. That funk that I'm talking about is homophobia. It's sexism. It's classism. It's ableism, it's ageism, it's all of those things that are on your cards that we carry around with us in our backpacks. When we get tired of living in that funk, we're going to get busy cleaning it up because we're the only ones that are able to do it. Why? Because we're here, all right? I got a couple little things I want to show you here. One of the things that I want to talk about is this whole scientific term called inertia. Most of you have learned about it. If you haven't learned about it yet, you're going to learn about it. Don't worry. But here's a little hint, okay? I want to give you a definition of inertia. Inertia is the ability of a body in motion to stay in perpetual continual motion until a force of equal or greater strength is pushed against it in the opposite direction. Okay? This is true about the physical world. You're going to learn about it in science. But what our teachers never told us, and what they never told me, that inertia also applies to the social world. It applies to the world that we live in. It applies to race. It applies to gender. It applies to sexual orientation. Inertia applies to all of those things. And what we have to do is try to find a force to push up against all these things so that we can stop it from affecting our generations. See, what happens is when one thing happens in one generation, it affects the next generation, and the next generation, and the next generation, until a force of equal or greater strength is pushed against it in the opposite direction. Just to give you an idea what inertia... So, that's what I'm talking about. That's the stuff that we got to fix, okay? This video relates to exactly what you have on your cards that we all carry in our backpacks with us every day. It's not what we're carrying in our backpacks that affects us. It's how society looks at what we're carrying in our backpacks that affects us. So what we have to do is we all have to get busy cleaning up this funk so that our backpacks will not weigh us down so much. With that being said, thank you very much. I'm glad I was able to come talk to you today. Have a wonderful school year and carry your backpacks proud. Walalio.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gerard. That reminds all of us, students and staff, that we all have a responsibility for each other and we need to stand up and speak out and be mindful of what's in our own and others' backpacks every day. Thank you again. Next, we have OREC student Deidre Green to perform a song she wrote for today. Her song is called Desperate Souls, and she wrote it about bullying.
Oh, she sits alone, crying again. She needs to know when this will end. She wants to give up, she doesn't know what to do. Oh, what would you do? What would you do if there was you? Phone goes off again, she doesn't wanna get it. She knows it's someone else just calling her pathetic. She wants to give up, she doesn't know what to do. Oh, what would you do? What would you do if there was you? Oh, another desperate soul roaming the earth. The poor girl doesn't know her beauty or her worth. All she needs is a helping hand to guide her along. And that's the reason the reason I wrote this song. He gathers his stuff and he leaves the class. The poor boy's teacher, yes, the teacher made him feel like trash. He wants to give up, he doesn't know what to do. What would you do? What would you do if that was you? The kids laugh at him as they walk by. As the teacher insults him, he's trying not to cry. He wants to give up, he doesn't know what to do. Oh, what would you do? What would you do if that was you? Oh, another desperate soul roaming the earth. The poor boy doesn't know his talents or his worth. All he needs is a helping hand to guide him along. And that's the reason I wrote this song. Oh, the desperate souls roaming the earth. The poor things do not know their beauty, talents, or worth. All they need is a helping hand to guide them along. And that's the reason I wrote this song.
Thank you, Deidre, and the backup dancers Holly, Emma, Zoe, Alyssa, Marin, and Aisla. Now I will turn things back over to Miss Baker.
Thanks, Raylan. That was amazing. Thank you so much, girls. I know you can all hear me out there. So just a note about that. Deidre wrote that song. She recorded it on a CD, and you can order those from her if anybody would be interested. Thought I'd throw that in there. So thanks, first and foremost, to our presenters and performers. It takes a lot of people to put something like this together for a day, and there's been a lot of people both in front of the audience and behind the scenes who have been a help, so thanks to you all. Thank you to the guests who have joined us for our day. It makes it important that we can all come together as one school, whether we're in one school or not. We can all be one family. Let's use today as a starting point to make this the best year ever at CCRSB. It's been said many times by our many presenters today that this is the first stepping stone. We're not going to just talk about it, we're going to put it into action. So this is the start. Let's be the ones that are the action. Be the action that you want to see. So again, we're going to stand up and speak out. We're going to be aware of what's in our backpacks and others' backpacks, and we need to do this together as one group. So thank you. All right, so our live feed is now done. We're going to